Let's get started with our first news update. Alexander Volkanovski is opening up in surprising detail about the concussion he suffered during the Islam Makhachev knockout. He's now admitting that this concussion was actually worse than the one he received from Ilya. Even though both of those losses were undeniably brutal, Volk says the aftermath of the Islam fight took a much bigger toll on him physically, leaving him with lasting symptoms that disrupted his entire training routine and recovery plan. Volk explained, "I had a decent concussion from Islam. I feel like I had more of a concussion from the Islam one. Even though I was knocked out longer with Ilya, I had a lot more of the symptoms with the Islam one." He's being brutally honest here, showing that even an elite fighter sometimes underestimates how much damage their body is taking in the heat of competition. He went on, "So I didn't have head contact training afterwards. That means after the Islam fight, he literally couldn't spar the same way or risk further injury. He had to change everything." Volk described how hard that adjustment was, saying, "But when you're easing into it, you're making sure you're not getting hit. You're trying to put yourself in safer positions, and you even start camp wrong." He's reflecting on the fact that he should have given himself a proper break. He admits, "I should have had the break. I can accept the situation and I'll tell myself to make it work, even though it's probably not going to." This kind of honesty is rare for top-level fighters who are known for pushing through pain at all costs. But what's really interesting is how determined and maybe even a little stubborn Volk was before that rematch with Islam. He said, "I'm telling you, I went in there for the Islam rematch thinking, I'm going to be more dangerous now because I'm on 11 days notice." Imagine the mindset. He truly believed the short notice would make him more aggressive, unpredictable, and hard to deal with. Volkanovski admitted he genuinely convinced himself of this strategy. "This is the most dangerous you've seen me. I'm not beating him by decision. I have to go. I'm going to be more aggressive. I'm going to take more risks." It shows the championship mentality, but also hints at why things didn't go his way. Even with the quick turnaround against Ilya, Volk refused to listen to anyone. Everyone was saying, "What are you doing? You should have a big break. It's going to affect your confidence." I was like, "Bull, no, I ain't having it." He completely dismissed everyone's advice, determined to fight no matter what the risks were. This whole story offers an eye-opening look into what it means to compete at the highest level. Fighters like Volk don't just battle in the cage, they battle their own instincts, expectations, and the physical consequences of pushing too hard. It's a powerful reminder of the price of greatness and why even the best need time to heal. Moving on to our second news story. Max Holloway is openly questioning why he's still ranked #1 in the featherweight division, even though he's not planning on ever going back down there. Right now, Max is fully focused on preparing to defend the BMF title against Dustin Poirier at UFC 318, a fight that's happening at lightweight, not featherweight. He's made it clear he's done with cutting back to 145 pounds and thinks it's pretty ridiculous. He's still at the top of that division's rankings. Speaking to MMA Junkie, Max broke it down in classic Holloway style, saying, "I just figured 55 is much funner. I get to eat a bunch more and I get to do my thing at 55. You can tell he loves the freedom that comes with not having to torture himself to make featherweight anymore. He called it a total no-brainer to stay at lightweight. At the end of the day, it was a no-brainer to stay there. We had unfinished business at 45, so that's why we went back down. We're here now, and I can't wait. There's some fun matchups for us here at 55, so it's even better for me." It's clear he's excited about the potential fights at lightweight and just doesn't see featherweight in his future at all. He went on to explain, "The last two 55 fights, I had business that I wanted to take care of going back down a weight class. So we went hard and did it the right way. We knew that if the weight had to come off, then the weight had to come off. But that was then, and this is now." Then Max got even more direct about the rankings issue. "I don't know what the UFC or you guys voting on the rankings are thinking, keeping me #1 contender there. That's kind of ridiculous. I'm not going back down to 45. I'm over it. It's ridiculous." He's honestly baffled that he's still being treated as if he's part of the featherweight title picture. Max didn't hold anything back, adding, "I don't understand. I mean the rankings period, Bureau, I don't get it. The rankings are just all over the place." He even brought up his fight with Gaethje as proof of how strange the system can be. Go back to the Gaethje fight. Gaethje was the #1 contender when I fought him at 55. He was ranked 5 or 4 at the time. I beat him, and the way I beat him I thought was cool. I felt like things were going my way early. During the whole fight, I felt like I had control. Then to finish it with that point down, that moment I thought, when the rankings came out, I wouldn't come out at #9. That's just ridiculous. The guy was #5 or 4. At the end of the day, rankings are all over the place. He didn't stop there. Even with Ilya, as soon as he announced he was coming up, they took him directly out of the damn 45 rankings and left me at #1 contender. I was like, what the hell is going on? For Max, it just proves how inconsistent the rankings really are. It's classic Max Holloway, honest, unfiltered, and always ready to throw down no matter what the rankings say. Moving on to another big topic. Daniel Cormier recently opened up about why he's genuinely concerned over the idea of hosting a UFC event at the White House. It's not that he's against the idea completely, he actually thinks it would be an incredible spectacle, but he's raising some very real, very practical questions about how it would work. Cormier laid out his thinking very clearly. He asked, who's the main event? Because in his view, that matters more than ever if you're gonna stage an event on such a symbolic stage. He said, we can't headline the White House. No disrespect to anyone, with a Russian versus a Spaniard. We can't do a Brazilian versus a Georgian. What do? We have to have an American in the main event at the White House. At least I feel that would have to happen. His concern is pretty straightforward. Hosting an event at the White House is not just a regular fight night or even a typical pay-per-view. It would be a statement. It would be wrapped up in patriotism, in symbolism, in the idea of showcasing American athletes on American soil, in the most powerful political setting in the world. So for Cormier, it would feel weird, even unpatriotic, to have two international fighters squaring off for that honor. Cormier didn't stop there. He tried to imagine potential matchups, and that's where things got tricky. He continued, so does it make it to where if Jones goes, I'm able to do it? I want to do it. Or do you say we headline with someone else? He's acknowledging that Jon Jones would obviously be the ideal choice because he's American and one of the sport's biggest stars. But even that isn't simple. He pointed out the problem. If Jones were to face someone like Tom Aspinall, here's the problem. You put Jon versus Tom. Tom's from England. I mean, you know, we're celebrating our independence from England on July 4th. We want to put Jon in there to represent us against Tom. But what if Tom wins? All of a sudden, the English win. I mean, come on. Cormier is using humor, but there's a serious point underneath. He's highlighting how even the appearance of that outcome could be politically awkward or embarrassing in a venue like the White House. It's a fascinating window into the kind of strategic, even diplomatic thinking that goes into planning high-profile UFC events. Now let's move on to another big news item. Dana White is receiving significant backlash over the recently announced UFC 318 card. Dana himself shared the full lineup on his Instagram, and in a moment of self-aware humor or maybe brutal honesty, he even captioned it, "This card is so bad." That line alone set the tone for the entire conversation around the event. The main event for UFC 318 is Max Holloway taking on Dustin Poirier for the BMF belt. On paper, that's an exciting fight. Two legends, both known for putting on absolute wars. Fans generally respect both guys, and there's no doubt that matchup alone is carrying a lot of the interest for this card. But once you move beyond the main event, that's where things start to look a little shaky, at least in the eyes of many fans. The CO main event is Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov. While Costa is a big name with a reputation for wild, brawling style, many see this as a strange choice for a CO main on a pay-per-view in 2020. Beyond that, the lineup includes Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez, Dan IG versus Patricio Pitbull, and Michael Johnson versus Daniel Zellhuber. Individually, these are solid fighters, but collectively, it's left many fans wondering if this really feels like a pay-per-view caliber event, or more like a fight night card dressed up to justify the PPV price. Some of the comments on Dana's own post were absolutely savage. One user wrote, "No, it ain't gang. Paulo Costa co-main on a pay-per-view in 2025, followed by crying laughing emojis, mocking the idea that this is worthy of a co-main event slot in a modern PPV era. Others called it one of the cards of all time, dripping with sarcasm. Multiple fans labeled it a fight night type of card, suggesting that if you took away the BMF title branding, this would look like a standard free TV lineup, rather than something fans would pay big money to watch. The term honestly mid also popped up again and again, showing how underwhelmed much of the community feels about the overall quality. There's also the underlying question of value. With UFC PPV prices higher than ever, fans are getting more critical about what they're actually paying for. A main event alone isn't enough anymore. People want depth, they want multiple meaningful fights, they want the feeling that anyone on the card could become a star. And for UFC 318, at least as it's currently announced, many feel like it just doesn't deliver on that promise. Of course, Dana White is no stranger to controversy or criticism. He's known for brushing off these kinds of comments, betting that the BMF title, Max Holloway's star power, and Poirier's reputation will carry the day, and maybe it will. But there's no denying that this backlash represents a growing demand from fans for stronger, more consistent PPV lineups. What do you think about the UFC 318 lineup? Is the criticism fair, or do you think fans are being too harsh? Post your thoughts in the comments and join the debate. Moving on to another important news story, Shavkat Rakhmonov is firmly demanding his well-deserved title shot and has set his sights on facing the winner of Islam Makhachev versus Jack Della Maddalena. In a recent interview with Ulis Media, Shavkat didn't hold back about his intentions. He made it very clear he's not interested in any intermediate fights or tune-up bouts. The undefeated welterweight contender is laser-focused on the belt and says he's willing to wait as long as it takes to get that opportunity. He put it plainly, saying, "The situation is difficult. I'm waiting to see who will fight for the title. Perhaps we'll go straight to the title fight even next year. I'm waiting. I don't want to waste my energy on intermediate fights." That level of patience and confidence shows just how badly Shavkat wants to prove he's the best. All of this stems from a chaotic turn of events that completely scrambled the welterweight title picture. Originally, Shavkat was supposed to face Belal Muhammad for the undisputed championship, but when Shavkat got injured, Jack Della Maddalena stepped in to fight Belal instead. That one switch-up didn't just change a single matchup, it flipped the entire welterweight division upside down, throwing timelines, rankings, and fighter plans into disarray. Now things are even more complicated because Islam Makhachev is entering the welterweight conversation. Islam's move up is threatening to spoil everyone's plans. If Islam wins and stakes a claim to the division, there's a strong chance the UFC would be tempted to book him in a massive legacy fight against Kamaru Usman. That would be a bigger name and potentially a bigger money fight than Shavkat. So right now, Shavkat finds himself stuck in limbo. He's still undefeated, undeniably elite, and by most accounts has earned his shot. But timing, injuries, and Islam's rising popularity could unfairly push him further back in line. It's a tough situation because in today's UFC, hype and headlines often beat quiet dominance when it comes to securing big opportunities. Shavkat wants that gold more than anything, but in a division so full of chaos, he may need more than just raw skill to finally get it. What are your thoughts on the current state of the welterweight division? Do you think Shavkat deserves the next shot? Share your opinions in the comments below. Finally, let's talk about something interesting that Michael Bisping recently said about Islam Makhachev. Bisping believes that Islam may have made a huge mistake in planning to move up to welterweight. Even though Islam has been very open about wanting to chase a second title and cement his legacy as a double champion, Bisping feels that plan might seriously backfire if he's not careful. During an episode of his popular podcast, Bisping laid out exactly why he thinks this move is so risky. He pointed out that getting a win over Jack Della Maddalena will be no easy task at all. In fact, Bisping thinks it might be even harder than some fans are imagining, especially when you consider the problems Alexander Volkanovski caused Islam in their first fight at lightweight. Bisping explained it in his trademark blunt style. He said, "Jack says Islam's too small for him. I think he's got a point. Vorg is not a very big man. He is the man, but he's a smaller man. And that first fight with Islam, he gave him everything he could handle. Jack is not a small 170-pounder, you know? I think it might be a big mistake for Islam going up to 170. Might be a bit of a stretch, but fair play to him. I respect it." You can hear the respect in Bisping's words. He admires Islam's willingness to take risks and chase greatness. But he's also not sugarcoating the danger. Moving up to face naturally bigger, stronger opponents isn't as simple as just adding a few pounds. Jack Della Maddalena is a true solid welterweight who carries real knockout power and isn't going to be intimidated by Islam's reputation. Adding even more complexity to this situation is Shavkat Rakhmonov, who's made it crystal clear that he's not stepping aside for anyone. There's been no official word yet on when Islam and Jack might actually fight, but in the meantime, Shavkat is staking his claim. Kazakh outlet Ulis Media quoted Shavkat saying, "The situation is difficult. I'm waiting to see who will fight for the title. Perhaps we'll go straight to the title fight even next year. I'm waiting. I don't want to waste my energy on intermediate fights." If Shavkat decides to wait for the winner of Islam versus Jack, it could mean he's out of action until at least spring or even summer, especially if Islam and Jack end up fighting in November at Madison Square Garden. That's a long time to be sidelined in such a chaotic and competitive division. so the stakes are high. For Islam, this move up to welterweight could cement his status as an all-time great if it works out. But if it doesn't, it could be remembered as a huge mistake that cost him momentum, and maybe even his lightweight belt if he's forced to vacate. What do you think about Islam Makhachev's chances at welterweight? Is this a smart move or a big gamble that might not pay off? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.